Meet Luz. Luz gets carried away. A lot. She's so passionate about the things that she loves that bringing live snakes to school for a book report somehow makes perfect sense in her head, because, technically speaking, it does make the presentation more immersive, and honestly, wins for commitment. Luz is also very transparently coded as neurodivergent, which helps make her feel like a more believable outcast, as she struggles with boundaries, social expectations, and understanding how other people perceive her actions. She's also incredibly dramatic, and I mean that in the best possible way. She loves big, cinematic gestures, grand speeches, and treating everyday situations like she's the protagonist of an anime, which, to be fair, she kind of is. We first meet her sitting in the principal's office discussing her book report, or more specifically, discussing the consequences of releasing several snakes into a school. As shocking as this may sound, school administrators generally frown upon surprise reptile demonstrations. Because of the incident, Luz is being sent to a summer camp designed to help her become more normal. Luz is understandably horrified by this and promises she won't mess up again. Unfortunately, the snake that she's been holding for the entire conversation immediately launches itself at the principal. Timing has never been Luz's strong suit. We then see Luz standing outside of her house waiting to leave for the camp. And less than 2 minutes into the episode, we get what is arguably the first genuinely heartbreaking scene of the series, as well as one of the most important moments in the series. Camila asks,
"Do you have any friends? Real ones. Not imagined or drawn or reptilian."
ouch. Now, to be clear, Camilla's intentions are good. She's trying to help her daughter fit in and avoid getting hurt. The problem is that she doesn't fully understand why Luz cares so deeply about the things she loves. As she encourages Luz to leave her fantasy world behind, Luz throws away her favorite book, The Good Witch Azura. You can immediately see how much this hurts her. Camila isn't trying to be cruel. If anything, she's trying a little too hard to help. But instead of helping Luz channel her creativity, she's unintentionally asking her to suppress it. And that makes the ending of this episode work so much better later on. After Camila leaves, Luz quickly tries to recover the book. Unfortunately, a mysterious owl has other plans. The owl turns out to be Albert, who leads Luz into a strange shack, and before you know it, we've officially entered the demon realm. The rest of the episode introduces us to several major characters, those being Eda the Owl Lady, King, and Warden Raph, and of course the wonderfully weird world of the Boiling Owls itself. We also get our first look at the Conformatorium, which Luz immediately associates with the summer camp she's desperately trying to avoid, so naturally, she decides to break everyone out, as one does. This eventually leads to a confrontation with Warden Raph and gives us one of the show's first major "what did I just watch" moments.
Ow! Oh, I hate it when that happens.
And just like that, the trauma counter rises to 2. This is where my biggest issues with the episode start to appear. Number 1, the pacing. The second half moves fast. Like, we have 20 different things to establish before the credits roll. Fast. Within a relatively short period of time, we're introduced to multiple major characters, the basic rules of the Boiling Isles, the Conformatorium, Warden Raph, Eda's philosophy on individuality, and Luz's growing rejection of conformity. None of these ideas are bad. In fact, most of them become incredibly important later. The problem is that they don't always get enough room to breathe. Sometimes it feels like the episode is sprinting through a checklist of things it needs to establish before the real story can begin. That being said, there's still a lot here that works. Eda immediately establishes herself as a fun and charismatic mentor figure. King somehow steals nearly every scene he's in, despite being a tiny gremlin who spends half his screen time making absurd declarations. And the Boiling Isles instantly feels unique. Even this early on, you can tell that the writers had a very strong vision for the world. The setting is weird, creative, and completely confident in its own absurdity. And that confidence goes a long way. The episode ends with Luz making a decision that ends up defining the entire series. She chooses not to return home. Instead, she stays in the demon realm. The first time I watched this episode, it felt like a fairly standard fantasy protagonist decision. Adventure versus normal life. Pretty straightforward. But after watching the entire series, the scene hits a lot harder, especially after Season 2's Yesterday's Lie, where Camila asks Luz if she hated living with her that much. Looking back, this isn't just Luz choosing adventure, it's Luz choosing a place where she finally feels understood, a place where her imagination isn't treated like a problem that needs to be solved, and knowing how much guilt she carries because of that choice adds a completely different layer to the scene. I also think this episode missed an opportunity to foreshadow Lilith. One thing that Amphibia handled really well in its premiere was letting viewers know that Sasha and Marcy existed long before they became major players. Even when Marcy wasn't physically present, the audience knew that there were still important pieces of the puzzle waiting somewhere off screen. The Owl House could have benefited from something similar: a silhouette, a brief mention, a short post-credit scene, anything. Just something to hint that another important player was out there searching for Eda. Considering how important Lilith eventually becomes, her complete absence from the premiere feels like a missed opportunity in hindsight. Despite my issues with the pacing, one thing that this episode absolutely nails is Luz herself. Within the first few minutes, you understand exactly who she is. You understand her personality, you understand her flaws, you understand her interests, and most importantly, you understand why she feels so out of place in the human world. Even when the episode is rushing through world building, the character work remains strong enough to keep everything engaging. As an introduction to the Owl House, it's perfectly serviceable, but compared to what the series eventually becomes, it feels a little rough around the edges. Shows like Gravity Falls and Amphibia felt more confident, letting their worlds unfold naturally. This episode feels more interested in getting all of its pieces onto the board as quickly as possible. The foundations are absolutely there, they're just not fully polished yet. For this series, every episode will receive a score out of 10. And while rewatching this episode was incredibly nostalgic, I just can't justify giving it anything higher than a 6.5. That's it for the first review in this brand new series. Over the next couple months, we will be going over every single episode of The Owl House with the same level of detail. If you have any feedback, suggestions, or your own thoughts on the episode, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.